Our children, our future, exposed to dangers every day that impact their lives and mental health. School shootings, bullying.
I miss my baby.
Sextortion.
Get out.
Tonight,
Get down,
we examine solutions that could save your child's life. Right now, protecting our kids. A 19 News special report.
Well, classes are wrapping up for some this week, but there are things parents can do over the summer to make sure there's a safe school climate for next year. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Chris Fry.
And I'm Tiffany Tucker. Of course, parents play a key role in protecting our kids. We're going to spend the next hour looking at the tools available to address the issues facing our children today.
All of the people in this room and you at home tonight believe that there are ways we can make our schools safer and better places for our children to learn. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nicole Versansky.
And I'm Brian Duffy. We seem to be at a big crossroads right now in this situation. So many challenges, and children at this point don't feel safe. And it is up to us as parents and members of this community to do something about that. Now, a warning, as we take you through the issues that we are going to look at tonight, what you are about to see is graphic. Panic.
Shots fired!
Complete
Get inside!
panic.
Go, go, go! He's inside the school shooting at the kids!
1 year ago today, Uvalde, Texas, 19 students murdered, 2 teachers murdered, 17 others injured at Robb Elementary School. Heartbreaking. A 10-year-old begging for help.
Can you tell the police to come to my room?
I already told them to go to the room. We're trying to get someone to you.
That was last year, but nothing has changed. This year alone, there have been, according to Education Week, 21 school shootings, 32 people killed or injured. At Covenant School in Nashville in March, the shooter blasted out a window to get inside.
Move! Move!
Police wasted little time tracking the shooter through school hallways. The gunman was shot and killed, but not before 6 innocent people, 3 students and 3 adults, were killed. And then, 1 week later, West Geauga High School.
Located inside of the bag was a handgun and 3 loaded magazines. Mr. Morissette was immediately arrested, handcuffed, and searched.
That student had plans to use that gun.
It is a sad commentary that schools must face challenges to the safety of students and staff. However, it is a reality that we acknowledge and for which we prepare.
So when and how does the gun threat end?
Enough is enough! Enough is enough!
Lakewood students walked out of school demanding something be done.
The truth is we're all under attack. The administration and children are both dying.
Maybe it ends with a focus on our spiraling mental health crisis. Social workers are seeing troubling signs.
Students as young as 5 or 6 have these thoughts of suicide, and it's very concerning.
Anxiety, stress, difficult on a family, on kids.
I think parents these days have more to worry about than we did in the past, and I think that, that kids feel that and they carry that with them.
And some carry that stress into school, where they may face a bully, a fight in the hallway in Cleveland Heights. Hard to watch, but someone who had been bullied decided to fight back. Being a kid shouldn't be this hard.
It's affecting me a lot during school because I don't like to come to school that much with her right there because I feel like she's going to mess with me every day, and then I don't want to go to school and I'm not going to be able to learn things.
And in some cases, that bullying, now generated by the pressures of social media, has the ultimate consequences.
We're losing children to the things that are happening on social media.
Ultimate consequences brought on by sextortion. Tamia Woods lost her son.
We kept our son out of drugs, off the streets, out of alcohol, active, in school.
But someone sent him a picture and asked him to share one of his own, a private picture. And then he was threatened with exposure unless he paid thousands of dollars. Instead, Tamia Woods' son took his own life.
I miss my baby. I miss his touch. I miss his smile.
We've got a lot of issues to face, and we are going to do that, and we're going to do it head on. We want to introduce you to our panel now. Two men who were inside the building in Chardon High School when the lives of Russell King Jr., Demetrius Hewlin, and Danny Parmenter were taking in a shooting at Chardon High School in 2012. Coach Frank Hall, who is credited with chasing the shooter out of the building, saving lives, is with us tonight. And Tim Armelli, who was on the PA system that day at Chardon High School as he tried to warn students that there was a problem in the school. Nikki.
We are also joined by Amanda Kuko. She is the Cuyahoga Falls mom. Her son is entering kindergarten just this year, but she is taking such an active role, really with the goal of trying to get a school resource officer into every school building in her community. She has a message for parents to get involved. Also joining us is Carrie Tolino Bell. She is an expert on kids and mental health. She works for Beachbrook, and she is part of the school-based counseling program. She oversees it for Twinsburg schools.
And Nikki, I want to reintroduce you to Tamia and Tim Woods. They're the parents of James Woods. Together, the couple has turned their pain into purpose to protect our kids after their beloved 17-year-old son, James, a track star at Streetsboro High School, took his own life. He was a victim of sextortion. He took his life just days before Thanksgiving.
Also, we have Scott Detray. He's the principal of our host tonight here at Cuyahoga Heights High School, where the expectations for students is treating each other with kindness. I think that's something we can all do. And of course, Dr. Kenneth Trump, one of the country's leading experts on school security and emergency preparedness, with more than 30 years of experience in the field. He is the president of the National School Safety and Security Services. Well, I will tell you, a lifetime ago, schools were considered a safe haven for students and teachers. But in today's world, well, violence has unfortunately found its way into those spaces.
It is unfortunate. That is the key word here. School shootings have become the new normal for every incident. School districts and law enforcement officials are trying to find ways to stop this growing threat.
Yeah, and one Northeast Ohio facility training center, well, they are training first responders how to handle such incidents. I recently had the chance to experience the simulators at Tri-C.
Anyone that's in an active shooter situation, they have their role too.
Yeah.
Whether they're running, whether they're hiding, whether they're fighting, and then what they do when the officers do respond to the situation.
It's a scenario no one wants to be involved in. Active shootings. It's an epidemic in our society. Our way of life has been impacted by these horrific acts of murder, and law enforcement needs to know how to respond.
We've been able to provide agencies with the most realistic dynamic simulation training in the area. It's 21st century training. The technology is amazing, it's constantly evolving.
The Public Safety Center at the Tri-C campus in Parma Heights provides state-of-the-art training for all kinds of emergencies, and that includes school shootings.
Years ago, it was show up, take a perimeter position, and perhaps call in special weapons and tactical teams. Now, you respond, you're trained and prepared to go in and save lives.
What's the bottom line? They're there to save and protect lives. Paying attention to what's happening across the nation, and then working on how to build that lesson plan, and then providing that lesson plan to all of our instructors, and then allowing them to use that in our training that we do here today.
To understand how it works, Chief Harris offered me an opportunity to go through the process.
We are about to go through a simulation for a school shooting scenario, and I am playing the part of a police officer, so much so that I am holstered up right now.
So we're always looking for verbalization. And what happens is when you first get your new students here that show up from the academy, they don't say one word when they go through it. And so that's when we stop. Hey, look, you have to talk. They're so worried about surviving the scenario. They don't think about
talking. Like, where's this coming from?
Let's go. We got shots fired. Let's move. Let's move.
Where are they? Where are they?
Where did they go? Where are they?
Hey, put the gun down. Put the gun down now. Calm down, calm down.
You did quite well. How do you feel now?
Going through different scenarios, you build your confidence up. Like if it does happen, and we hope and pray it doesn't happen, but if it does, you go in there with the confidence saying, save life, take out the shooters.
Right.
That's it.
That's why the center has two sophisticated tools preparing police for the real thing: a simulation and a virtual reality machine, putting officers in that moment. Both have over 200 scenarios where they have to make split-second decisions as soon as they arrive on the scene. In real life, mistakes can cost an officer or victims their lives. But while training at the facility, mistakes are critiqued, and the training continues until it's done right.
Usually we go through an evaluation form and checklist. And if we see there's some areas that probably need to be worked on, corrected, then that officer is pulled off. Sometimes the entire team.
What happened? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?
It's state-of-the-art technology that can help save lives, preparing Northeast Ohio law enforcement, just in case.
We want the officer to leave out of here on a positive note.
Watch your partner's back.
That he can do the job and can do it effectively.
Hey, put the gun down. Put the gun down now.
All right, turning right now to Dr. Kenneth Trump. He is the president of the National School Safety and Security Services, more than 3 decades in the school safety field. You saw my mock training. A lot of officers go through that same type of training overall. You talk about hardware, you can have all the tools and necessary, but that human connection, that is about the best security defense in really any safety situation.
Absolutely. The number one way we find out about weapons, plots, kids who are going to cause harm to themselves and others is from a kid who comes forward and tells an adult that they trust. The first and best line of defense is a well-trained, highly alert staff and student body, and having worked on the highest profile mass school shootings as a civil litigation expert witness, allegations based on human factors, people, policies, procedures, training, and communications, not failures of security, hardware, and equipment. See something, say something, train people to do something.
We've been hearing that phrase, see something, say something, for the last 2 decades, and it rings true now. Now, you said also the common thread you found is the failure of the human factor. We put metal detectors and all types of security hardware in our schools, and sometimes they don't even work. Kind of discuss that. Explain that.
And when security works, it's because of people. When it fails, it's because of people. We're going into schools across the country, and you'll press buttons at the front entranceways, secured, fortified ways, and people will say, come in, and you just walk right in. Metal detectors, cameras, people who haven't been fully trained, equipment that's not being fully utilized, even high-tech weapons detection systems today. Many will not detect knives, the most common weapon when one's found in a school, subcompact guns. Devil's in the details of implementation. Schools are community centers. You're not going to run them 24/7. It comes down to people.
30 seconds, kind of bring it home for us. What would be your big suggestion for schools in keeping their schools safe overall?
Number one thing is provide students with support, social, emotional, mental health supports, create a culture of see something, say something, and train people to do something. Build those relationships with your kids and your school community. Focus on your people first, technology to supplement that, but not drive it.
Dr. Kenneth Trump, thank you for your insight. We appreciate it. Tiffany.
Every child is just precious, and I don't care where they live, I don't care who their parents are, we need to try to do everything we can to protect them.
What is the state doing right now to protect our children at school? 19 Investigates had the chance to ask that very question to our Governor Mike DeWine recently. We caught up with him at the Ohio School Safety Center in Columbus.
Yeah, 19 News, the first news station to get an inside look at this facility. Investigator Sarah Goldenberg has the story you'll see on Just One Station.
Hi, Governor. Welcome back. At the Ohio School Safety Center, an important reminder of what they're working for as soon as you walk in the door.
So this is all student opinions of what school safety means.
Looking out for one another.
Serious threats faced by students every day, from school shootings to suicide and bullying.
Anything in particular they're looking at or concerned about or need help on, or
well,
it's all over the place? Or
it's varied based on the district.
We were there as Governor Mike DeWine checked in on a team made up of police officers, EMTs, school counselors, and social workers, school bus drivers, and even a sports coach. They're on the ground across Ohio, helping schools and first responders prevent and prepare for threats.
No one can guarantee there will not be a tragedy in Ohio, but we have an obligation, a moral obligation, to do everything that we can to give schools the assistance they need and to protect every child.
The Safety Center opened its doors in Columbus in late 2019 and now plays a central role in guiding schools. And the need is urgent.
The Nashville school shooting is top of mind right now. What would you tell parents you're taking besides the School Safety Center? Any other action you're currently taking to keep kids safe at school?
Yeah, I think over $200 million that is now flowing to the schools. So all that money will be out. That's real money, and we're also, though, giving the schools the expertise and the help in regard to how to spend it.
School safety plans aren't just filed away with the state anymore. Now they're getting feedback from the Safety Center and making improvements. And we thought there was a real hole here. We needed to fill it. And my goal was, let's get every school in the state up to a certain level. Schools can go beyond that. We encourage them to go beyond that. The goal of the Safety Center is to have students, teachers, and staff more prepared than ever, because sadly, lockdown drills aren't going away anytime soon.
It's horrible. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing that kids have to go through this. Generally, kids are pretty resilient, and they're going to take their cue from us. And if we're calm about it, and if we are explain to them, this is probably never going to happen, just in case, this is kind of how we do, this is how we prevent things, they'll take their cue generally from us.
What would you say to parents who might be scared to send their kids to school, especially after they see a recent school shooting?
I would say, look, make sure your local school, where your child goes to school, is doing everything they can to follow best practices to keep your child safe. You know, you have every right. It's your school, it's your child. You have every right to ask them what in fact they are doing.
Sarah Goldenberg, 19 News.
So far, about $215 million in state grants has been handed out to nearly 2,800 schools throughout Ohio, and that money is going to be used for security, specifically things like automatic door locks, new security cameras. We're going to take a closer look at how the Ohio School Safety Center works, and we're going to talk to its director coming up in just a few minutes.
Well, it's a tragedy that Northeast Ohio will never forget. February 27th, 2012, a student at Chardon High School brought a gun in the building and shot 6 fellow students, killing 3 of them, Russell King Jr., Demetrius Hewlin, and Danny Parmenter. Nick Walzak was paralyzed by a gunshot wound. 2 other students also injured. There are still scars, but also change, better safety tools in place, and sharing what was learned from this painful experience. Time now to meet a couple of our guests here tonight. We'll start with Frank Hall. Frank Hall, of course, has been in the spotlight maybe reluctantly since the Chardon school shooting. It was Frank Hall who chased the shooter out of the building on that night, obviously saving a number of lives. Also, we have Tim Armelli, who's the foundation president, the Frank Hall Foundation president. Tim Armelli was the man who was on the PA system in Chardon High School on that night, really warning students of what was going on inside of the school. And Frank, along with Tim, have been working hard to protect school children ever since. Coach, I'll start with you. And we talked a little bit before the show started, and it's school resource officers that you've really focused in on being a key to making sure that administrators know what's going on in the building. Is that correct?
Yeah, you know, we talk about different layers of safety, but the one that you can't get away from is SROs in the building. They're the first line of defense. They're as important as a math teacher or a science teacher in a school these days. Our incident, our shooting was 47 seconds, and the Chardon PD was at our front doors in under 3 minutes. 90 seconds they were there, and it was all over. Someone on site, someone defending kids, someone saying that they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure kids go home, and that's what's important about SROs.
And Tim, what is the role of an SRO? What can an SRO do in a building?
An SRO, school resource officer, is a positive role model for our kids. He's another trusted adult that we put in the lives of our children. So we want our SROs to be active in the school environment, someone that's been trained on how kids learn, how their brains develop. We want them to be part of the faculty, in that kids feel safe and they feel that they can trust them.
Yeah. Frank, what else have you learned in the years since the shooting at Chardon High School that is critical to school safety?
Parents need to show up and be part. The most important building in our community is our school buildings. Parents need to show up. They need to hold their board accountable, that we want safety first in our schools, and be part of the process. Stand up for your kids, and stand up to your kids. Make sure that they understand right and wrong. Make sure that they value human life, that this is a human problem and humans need to solve it. Technology will only take us so far. We need to get together and make sure our kids understand how important life is.
Yeah. You guys have done great work, but what more needs to be done? And is it discouraging to still see so many of these shootings in schools?
It's discouraging. It's terrible to see these school shootings, because there's tools out there. There's ways to prevent these, and we're not. Our kids are the most valuable resource our country has, and we go out of our way to protect our parks and we protect our money. We got to do a better job of protecting our kids. So in that respect, I think Ohio's done a good job with the school safety center and the grants. But we can't let good get in the way of great. Right. We have to do a better job, and we have to continue to question what we're doing and why we're doing it, and we're doing it for our kids.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Coach. Chris.
All right, Brian, thanks a lot. Well, how is the Ohio School Safety Center working to stop threats in their tracks? We have an exclusive look inside the center to find out how it works. We continue our special report after the break.
Today, Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, turned into another killing field in America. 19 children, 9, 10, 11 years old, and 2 devoted educators. Grieving families were broken and never, ever will quite be the same.
1 year ago today, the country mourned the loss of 21 lives lost in Uvalde, Texas. Innocent children gunned down right inside their classroom. But shootings like this are the reason we are all here this evening. We are doing everything we can to shed some light on the solutions, to hopefully give parents some type of peace of mind. We're asking the tough questions in our community. We will continue to do that for you, to try and protect you and your children as they head off to school, a place where you expect them and should be able to expect them to come home safe. Chris?
Well, school shootings, suicide, and bullying, just some of the serious threats faced by students every day. The Ohio School Safety Center trying to stop those threats in their tracks. Now, a few minutes ago, we brought you an exclusive tour of the center with Governor Mike DeWine.
Now, 19 investigator Sarah Goldenberg taking us inside to show us how it works.
Inside these doors, the mission is the same every day, keeping Ohio students safe at school.
Some people might think it's just, are you going to have an active shooter in the school? But it's so many other things.
First responders, social workers, and counselors, even school bus drivers and a sports coach make up the team at the Ohio School Safety Center.
And the best part about having that diverse of a group is they can look at every angle of how is this going to impact a school? How is this going to impact their response?
Emily Torok is the executive director of the Ohio School Safety Center in Columbus. Since opening in late 2019, they're up to 53 full-time team members. They travel Ohio, reviewing safety plans and finding the gaps they need to fix, helping local schools and first responders. And they're constantly tracking threats on social media.
What are some of the biggest challenges you're seeing some of these schools facing right now?
Really is just grappling with how do we get everything implemented? Because you see the tragic news of these school shootings and you just don't even know where to begin sometimes.
For Torok, it's personal. She grew up in Northeast Ohio and her school district was devastated by several suicides around the same time.
I never want people to not have the resources and supports that they need in order to, help them move forward. And I never want to see students die by suicide.
It's often the students themselves who spot dangerous situations. Dozens of leads come into the Safety Center from the Safer Ohio School Tip Line. 19 Investigates found a 45% increase in tips reported to the tip line from 2021 to 2022, with about 460 tips reported last year. Cuyahoga County was number 2 in the state with 58 tips. Torok says they take every tip seriously because one phone call could stop a tragedy.
I tell everybody I have the best team in the state, the smartest team in the state, because it's true. They wake up every day thinking about school safety, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
We asked how many threats the Ohio School Safety Center has stopped. We're told it's hard to track threats like that, but the tip line has been useful. Torok encourages parents to get involved if you have any questions about your school's safety plan. Sarah Goldenberg, 19 News.
And we want to bring in Amanda Kulko. Her son is going to start kindergarten in the fall, and as a mom, she's really trying to be active in Cuyahoga Falls in her school district, really hoping to raise money for more security measures, specifically those school resource officers that we've been hearing how crucial, how important they are. You said, I heard you earlier talking about your son. He's 4, and you were thinking about getting him a bulletproof vest for school. This is just not the way that we should be thinking about our kids starting in kindergarten. And you said you really just want to give the kids a voice.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And as a parent, it's my job to protect my child. So I'm here. I'm going to continue to be here. I'm going to continue to go to school board meetings and council meetings and knock on every door I have to knock on to make sure that we get an SRO in every school. There's no reason we should not have one.
And you are taking action. You've already met with the superintendent. You met with the mayor. You're trying to meet with the school board. What are the things that you're trying to do to get this really going in your district?
I want it on the ballot in November. I want us to vote as a city, and I want it put on the ballot, $1 million added to hire more police officers so we can have one in every one of our schools in the Cuyahoga Falls School District.
What is the reaction that you've been getting from the superintendent, from people that you've been meeting with, and even other parents in the district?
Most of the reaction is positive. Everybody agrees. These are our children we're talking about. These aren't tangible items. They cannot be replaced. We can't treat this reactively. We need to be proactive, and we need to do this now. We don't want to have a harder conversation later down the road if, Lord forbid, tragedy strikes at our school like it did not too far away in Chardon.
All right, Amanda, thank you for joining us. A mom taking action to make schools safer. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Chris.
Nikki, I'll pick it up from here. We continue our 19 Solutions Special report, Protecting Our Kids. A mother and father robbed of their only child, the 17-year-old, a victim of sextortion. We have been talking about this a lot. He took his own life. Now his parents using their unspeakable tragedy to save other lives.
Protecting Our Kids, a 19 News special report.
This is so serious. I need people to understand that these people are targeting our children and how easy it is for people to sit there and capture your mind. We all make mistakes. But you know the difference between all of us? We didn't have the cell phone and we didn't have people getting in our ear over and over and over and over again.
19 News is committed to continue to work with the family of James Wood, the Streetsboro track star who took his own life after he was the victim of sextortion. It's a topic we've been talking about a lot. Tamia and Tim Woods raising awareness to help protect our children. Last night, especially tough for them and the entire Streetsboro community because it was James's graduation.
James Timothy Woods.
Joining me right now is Tamia and Timothy Woods. Very emotional. This story has been emotional for me as well. We're going to try to get through this. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tamia, I'm going to start with you. Just seeing that video, knowing that James was supposed to be there, should have been there, what was it like for you for graduation last night?
Well, James was there, and his personality spoke through each kid. Every kid that we helped save, James lived through, and he graduated yesterday, and it was an amazing feeling.
Did it feel wonderful to have the support of the community there for you?
Yes, they always have our back, 100%, and it's something you see on movies, but it's real life for us.
I'm going to go to Tim, who's usually the quiet one. Tim, what was that like for you, knowing that James was there?
It was beautiful. We got to see him graduate with all his friends, all his classmates, the people who run the building and whatnot. It was beautiful to see. Everybody had a good time. They cheered loudly for him. It brought joy to us.
Absolutely. We saw that beautiful picture of you guys there with the picture of there with James in that seat that was not empty. Tim and Tamia, you have spent a lot of time building this foundation, the Do It for James Foundation. Talk more about that.
The Do It for James Foundation, we originally started by immediately taking action, warning children and parents alike to make sure that we know about sextortion. Is something that we didn't get a chance to actually learn about until our son's untimely death. So we want to make sure that we stand tall and we have our children's back 100%, and we do that by providing tools for them, educating their parents and the children to make sure that we don't lose another child.
You have been to more than 15 schools. You showed me the schedule, and I talked to you the other day, and you said it was a difficult day, but how are you getting your strength?
It depends on the day, but we get our strength by every time that we hear that we help save another person's life, by every time that a child takes our TIC card, by every time that we get a hug from another parent. They say thank you because they didn't know it, what we know now, and it just continues to give us strength as we move along.
Not only have you talked to dozens and dozens of schools, but Tim, you actually have, both of you have passed out these tip cards that you have in your hand. I hope you have it in your hand. There you go. Those tip cards, more than 10,000 you've passed out?
Yes, we pass them out to every child that we see pretty much, and we make sure that they understand the number one thing is they matter. And we make them say it out loud in front of everybody, no matter how it sounds. We make sure they understand they matter to everyone, because without them, the world ends.
Valuable information on those tip cards. As we wrap things up here, Tamia, we had a race recently, and there's several more races. Tell us more about that.
So we previously had a race. It was a James Memorial Fund, and we actually was able to give away 5 $1,000 scholarships to James was, I said James was like I didn't know him, but James classmates. And on August 5th, we will have our first annual Do It for James Foundation Walk Run Day of Fun, where we will not only give away an additional $10,000 in scholarships, but other prizes. We will have the crisis center there, counselors there, other references for our children to come and actually know their options. We cannot rely on us as parents only having the options, because James didn't come to us. So we need to talk to the parents, but we also have to talk to the children as well. And that's what we're doing at the August 5th run.
I cannot thank you enough. You have educated me. It has been an emotional journey through your pain. You have a purpose here, and I appreciate that so much. And when we're talking about this, we're also talking about mental health. That is so critical in all this. And Nicole Versansky got a chance to dig deeper into that issue. Nikki?
The numbers are alarming. As many as 1 in 5 kids struggles with a mental health issue every year. Some say the problem is so severe, they're calling it a mental health pandemic. So what's behind this crisis, and what are some of the possible solutions to help?
She didn't want to go to school anymore. She started crying every day, all the way to school.
Anxiety. It was overwhelming 8-year-old Karina Abate.
Every day, like wanting to come home.
Karina used to love school, but something changed. Her mom, Kim, says a new school building and the bus rides seemed to be the triggers.
And was it a helpless feeling?
Yes, exactly. For a parent, you don't know what to do. You try to talk to them and they still are crying and going on, and it was pretty sad.
And Karina is not alone. The number of kids in Ohio struggling with anxiety or depression is skyrocketing.
Anxiety is definitely probably one of the top concerns.
Christine Hott is the social worker at Karina's Twinsburg Elementary School.
There's a lot of like social skills that we've seen lately that are kind of lacking with kids. And whether that's like because of these are pandemic kids or because they just don't know. Social media and online gaming and things like that are definitely a cause of some of the behaviors.
Karina was lucky. Help came quickly for her. As soon as mom reached out to the teacher, Christine was called in.
She met with her every Monday after that to calm her down for the week, and then it slowly started dwindling out of her, and now she's fine. Getting dressed, getting ready, and excited to go to school.
The Twinsburg School District, along with 60 other schools throughout Northeast Ohio, partner with Beechbrook for school-based counseling. Beechbrook's focus is prevention and early intervention for kids who are struggling.
To build that relationship so they have someone to talk to if they need to. They have someone to help them through their problem or work on this skill building.
There are 1,400 students in Twinsburg schools and 7 counselors. That's a 200-to-1 ratio, far better than most. On average in Ohio, that student-to-counselor ratio is 403-to-1, the 19th worst in the country.
How important is it then to have someone like you, a social worker, someone, a counselor, a therapist in a school setting?
It's so important because even though the teachers and staff and administrators want to help these kids, they don't have the time.
30 states mandate school counselors in their elementary or high schools. Ohio is not one of them. I spoke with Governor Mike DeWine about getting kids the mental health help they need.
We know that the faster they can get help, the better off, the better outcome there's going to be.
The governor insists Ohio is investing in solutions.
We've already put $1.3 billion into that. Our current budget puts another $600 million or so into that. So that is a real opportunity for schools to be able to get the help for their students.
But here's another major challenge. For that money or any kind of mandate to work, you need people to fill those roles. And right now, Ohio is among 41 states with a severe shortage of child psychiatrists, therapists, or social workers.
I know that we still have moms, dads out there who are told you've got a long wait, and that simply is not acceptable.
So how do you shorten that wait? How do you fill those jobs? Coming up, I'm going to introduce you to a woman who has been focused on mental health in kids for more than 15 years. She thinks she may have some solutions. I also tell you Governor DeWine's plan to get more people into these fields.
Welcome back, everyone. The mental health crisis amongst our kids is really right now, it's a problem. We've reported on it, but it is a national emergency, and we're not going too far when we say that because the American Academy of Pediatrics describes the situation exactly like that.
But as more kids struggle and need help, the number of people who can help is shrinking. So are there any possible solutions to be able to change that?
Sometimes students as young as 5 or 6 have these thoughts of suicide, and it's very concerning.
In her 15 years as a social worker, Carrie Tolino Bell says what she's experiencing now with kids in mental health is scary.
Anxiety, that's what I see the most with a lot of my teenagers.
Carrie is the director of the school-based counseling program in the Twinsburg School District.
I know there's not one answer here, but why are our kids so anxious?
That's a great question. I can't say that I know the complete answer to that. I think it's a very complicated one. COVID has caused a lot of our students to just lack a lot of the skills about learning how to connect with others, and they go to their phone for all the answers and all of the connection, and that's not what we're wired for as humans.
In many cases, Carrie says the solution to helping students is simply lending an ear.
For the older kids, it's having somebody that's there to listen, because a lot of times they aren't getting listened to.
Is there a problem right now with finding enough people to be able to listen, to be able to provide that ear?
Yes, for sure.
Ohio is among 41 states with a severe shortage of people who can help. For every 100,000 children in Ohio, there are just 11 psychiatrists. For the 1.6 million students in our state, there are only 4,000 counselors.
Burnout is a thing, and that contributes part of the problem that a lot of people are leaving the field too.
I asked Governor Mike DeWine about solutions. He thinks they should start at the college level.
What we could do is to pay students who have to take internships, who have to work what usually is for nothing, but that's part of what they have to do, to actually pay them for doing that.
The governor expects that will keep more students on track to enter the field. And in the meantime, Governor DeWine suggests expanding mobile response and telehealth services. So Carrie, joining us once again. As an expert in this field, what are some possible ways, other solutions to be able to get more people working in this field, working in this field?
Well, I think we as a society need to value mental health in general. You know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so it's a very important month for me and the work that I do. And, you know, the less we can, or the more we can decrease stigma and increase awareness about mental health issues and really how it's a part of our overall health and well-being and how important that is. I think that normalizes getting health care for this issue. But I think, you know, we need to find the resources to pay social workers and counselors more and value them more so that they're attracted to the field. But I think that's the question, is where do the resources come from? You know, I know agencies are struggling. A lot of times Medicaid reimbursement isn't very high, and so that contributes to a lot of the lack of ability to pay social workers what they're worth.
So prioritizing the importance of mental health. The U.S. Surgeon General actually said this week, issued a warning regarding mental health in our kids and social media. I want to talk about social media. How do you see that playing a role in some of the struggles that the kids that you deal with are seeing?
I don't see so much as a direct link to their mental health decline. I see it more as a social problem where it contributes to this disconnect that students have with making friends and connecting with adults in their life. It contributes to a lot of distraction in the school place, and so it's hard for them to do well academically because they're very concerned with sort of that instant gratification piece that they get from social media, getting liked that way, and so they're not able to connect with each other face to face, and they lose that social skills ability.
That human connection.
Correct. I wouldn't say it's all bad. I mean, there's some good uses for social media. There's positive apps there, so like for instance meditation apps, or they might, you know, make a game out of an app where a student or a young person might be able to use it as a way to cope with some of the things that they're dealing with.
All right, great, absolute great ideas. Thank you, Carrie, so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Chris, Tiffany.
All right, Nikki, this video is hard to watch. Scenes of bullying at a school. A 14-year-old girl punched several times in the head as dozens of students watched, cheered, even recorded.
The latest numbers from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say almost 20% of students in grades 9 through 12 report being bullied on school property in the 12 months leading up to the survey.
Parents, school staff, and children, they all have a role to play in preventing bullying. Scott Detrey, he is the principal here at our host tonight, Cuyahoga Heights High School, along with Laura Lai. She is an 8th grader at Cuyahoga Heights Middle School, and Vince, he is a 10th grader right here at the high school. Principal Detrey, thank you for joining us. You use an initiative, an acronym, PBIS, for your school to really help bring home kindness within these walls. Kind of talk about that acronym.
So PBIS, it stands for Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports, and it's a modeling that supports the positive side of students as opposed to saying no all the time. We're rewarding behavior that we expect students to have, and it begins with our staff. Our staff models behavior, they have clear expectations, and then with that, the students begin to mimic that, and it addresses some of our bigger concerns that are in some other schools. Yeah. And so it's our approach for mitigating the bullying and harassment that is often seen.
I know the message to my children every day, being kind goes a long way, and kindness is kind of the focal point, Lorelei, here at school. From a student's perspective, how do you see that among your peers?
Well, there's things that we all do, like together, like incentives just for showing those good, like, you know, everyday good behavior, like incentives, student of the month, things like that.
Yeah, those are good incentives to have. Vince, you're in high school, so kids become a little more self-aware, but things do happen. As a peer, when you see those incidents begin to escalate, maybe someone you know, how do you, as a peer to one of those students, try and help de-escalate that situation?
I mean, you gotta step into the situation, try to stop it, let someone know, a teacher, someone you're close with.
Yeah.
Vince, I got to ask you a question. Is it hard to do? Because there's pressure from people saying maybe that's not so cool to stick up for someone who may be bullied.
I mean, yeah, some people might be scared to go tell someone about it, but, I mean, you got to do it if you want this to stop.
And you feel better when you see it? When you respond to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, and Principal, last question within the last 20 seconds. That's how leaders are born out of this, when they do step up against the status quo and they tell a teacher or administrator that a situation is happening.
Absolutely. As Ken described earlier, see something, say something. Our students, we want them to be upstanders. We want them to stand up for somebody who may be being bullied or picked on or harassed, and a lot of times they're going to report to us something they may have seen on social media on behalf of that other student who may be afraid. So we ask our teachers to make connections with children and be able to observe what's out there and be that adult that they trust to go and say, I'm having a problem and I need help.
Indeed, indeed. Guys, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Nicole, Duffy.
All right, I think what we're learning, Tiffany, Chris, and Nikki, is that there are a lot of good people out here, and a lot of them are standing right here, and they want to do good, and they really want to work for all of us, but we've got to let them in. We've got to let them in and let them do their jobs and help everybody in this community, and we can do it.
Some final words right after we get back.
Protecting our kids, a 19 News special report.
This is just really the tip of the iceberg. We are just skimming the surface here. There is so much still to be able to dig into and to dig deeper as far as kids and mental health, as far as school security and school shootings and bullying. But I think the good news here is we've really had some positive potential solutions to be able to build on. In 19 News, we are committed to continue keeping this conversation alive because, after all, this is about our kids, and they are our future.
They are our future, and that brings me to compassion and empathy that we have to have for our young people, because as parents, and all four of us standing up here are parents, we're going through a lot more than our parents did just because of the times we live in. But you know what that means? Our kids are going through way much more than we ever had to deal with when we were kids, and we need to have that compassion and empathy for them as we push through this.
And keeping those conversations open, right? So important. Sometimes the kids just need an ear to listen, and I know I'm guilty as a parent. You tell them what to do, you tell them what to do, but sometimes maybe we need to be quiet and listen to our kids and what they're saying and the challenges that they are going through, and not just, you know, shake them off like, oh, I've been there, I've done that. But these are real issues that they're going through, and we need to listen.
They're new issues, too. Tiffany? Chris?
Well, Brian, Nikki, to kind of counter on your point, I think we talk about our children, we're parents. I think the administrators, too, we have to understand that they are also doing everything in their care and their livelihood to keep our children safe. We are handing out our most prized possessions to teachers and administrators every day, and they are doing everything to educate them, to keep them safe, to protect them, and they are doing their best. But I think it does take a village. As the old adage says, it does take a village to raise all of our children. And in this time of day, we are doing the best we can. And I applaud those teachers and administrators in those schools, in every school district, that are doing that job.
And as I stand on this stage today with my colleagues and all of our wonderful guests I see behind me, I want to thank you personally for taking this time to be here today, because without you, we would not be able to do this. I am a parent. I don't get it right all the time. I'm searching for solutions. I'm searching for the right answers. So again, I want to thank you as we walk this journey as protecting our kids today. It is a different world, certainly, from when I was going to school. I don't want to age myself, but we are here. 19 News is here to help you, to help your family get through this together, and we will continue to have more town halls like this. Hopefully this sparks a conversation in your home. I know I'm walking away with some valuable tools from each one of you. To Mia and Tim, I thank you. Principal Scott, I thank you. I thank you so much. We can all take a little bit away from this session that we've had today, and I am just honored to be a part of this team and be a part of this event today and protecting our children and finding solutions.
And we
to
do
that.
want to keep these conversations going. For all of you who have been watching, email us. Send us your suggestions, send us your questions, because we'll continue our conversations with our experts that we had up here. We'll ask them, hey, we heard this from a viewer, could this work? That's the way we continue this conversation. So we want you to be part of all of this too.
Yeah, our kids have great lives ahead of them, and we owe it to them to get it right. We appreciate you watching, and we certainly appreciate our guests.
We do want to thank our host here at Cuyahoga Heights High School for hosting this event. Thanks for watching.
Providing solutions. 19 News. First, fair, everywhere.